Hello guys, Marcus here from newsletterstudio.org. I'm here today to have a little work along video. This is not going to be like a cool show reel or something. I'm thinking that I'm going to show the new version of Newsletter Studio for Umbraco 8 and for upcoming Umbraco 9 as well. It's going to be the same code base running on 9. So there's a lot of things to cover. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but I'm going to try to show some of the cool stuff that I think is cool, and then we'll take it from there. And one of the big things that I'm going to show today is, of course, the transactionals support that we've added in this version of Newsletter Studio. So I hope that you would like to join me and follow along. The first thing that I want to point out here is that one thing that's new for Newsletter Studio version 3 for Umbraco 8 is the support for multiple workspaces. So this solution is fully multi-tenant, which means that we can have independent entities, or you can think of it as clients or departments or whatever, that have their own mailing lists, their own contacts, their own campaigns and transactional emails. So if you have multiple websites inside of your Umbraco installation, this might be something that you would like to use. So I'm actually going to start from scratch here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new workspace. I'll call it Marcus Demo Workspace, and I'll click on the Create button. And the view that we see right now is the settings, the administration settings. So this is for administrators, where you're actually setting up things that a regular user wouldn't have to change. So we support custom fields on users at the moment, and I actually have a little fake data set that I've generated. So it looks something like this. We have a first name, last name, email, city, and company. So I'm going to go ahead and add these two properties or custom fields to my workspace. So the custom fields are applied for each workspace. I'm going to save it. So all our recipients inside of the Marcus Demo Workspace is now going to have two properties, one called city and one called company. Yeah, so I wanted to show you also some of the settings. So for campaigns, we can configure which recipient providers that we want to use. So we have a built-in one that will basically fetch recipients from our mailing lists. There's also a provider for Umbraco, so that you can send to Umbraco members and Umbraco groups. Jumping to the next thing here is something called merge field providers. And this is something separate from the recipient providers. The merge field providers is responsible for creating replaceable placeholders inside of the email that we can replace during rendering. For example, inserting the first name, last name, the email, or inserting any of the Umbraco properties on a member, or the general stuff that is things like read online or unsubscribe links. We also have settings for email controls. So the email editor has controls, and this makes it possible for us to choose which controls to show in the editor when you're creating a campaign. At the moment, we just want to show everything. And we also have allowed themes, and we can choose which themes that are allowed to be used. But right now, I'm just going to go for the default theme. And then we have similar settings for transactional emails. And further down, the base URL, this is really important. This is the URL that we're going to use to replace all relative links inside of the email. And most of the time, this URL is the same as the URL that you install the package on. So it might be different if you have a staging and test environment. And then the last thing here is to configure a email service provider. So at the moment, we have a SMTP pickup provider that will just put the emails in a folder on the computer. But there's also a SMTP provider where you can configure an SMTP host to send via. And we're going to extend this as well with other providers, for example, SendGrid, Mailiot, Mailgun or wherever. So we actually support sending through APIs as well, but it's not implemented yet. Okay. Sorry, I just need to fix the microphone. It's constantly moving around. Okay, so I've explained the basics of the workspace here, the settings that we need to do to have. And if I jump back to the administration overview, we can also see here that these workspaces are all running in trial mode. So the license model is that you will have to pay for each workspace that you want to use. But the more workspaces you have, the less you'll have to pay per workspace. So the first thing that we might want to do is to create a mailing list inside of our new demo workspace. So I'll call this clients, and then I'll insert that one, and I can go up to actions here and choose import. And this is a quite neat feature here. We can either choose to upload a file here, or we could actually go and grab the content of a text file like this, like a comma separated text file like this one, and just paste that here. And then click on the import button. As you can see here, we have column headers here, which is really good because we're actually trying to match them against properties on the recipient. So as you can see here, since we had the column header, we're actually matching the field first name inside of our system with this row from the data set. And then there's a demo or some samples from the data set, so that you know that we're matching the right thing. And this also goes for the custom fields that we just created. So from here I can continue, and the import is done. We've added 650 email addresses to our mailing list. And in this version of Newsletter Studio, compared to other versions, a recipient, I'll call this, gold customers. I just want to show that a recipient here is just one entity. Before, in the older versions, we used to create one recipient per mailing list, but now the recipient has a relation to each mailing list. And as you can see here, there's a timeline on the recipient where we can see that this recipient was added via an import. And it was subscribed to the client list at the same time, and then a couple of seconds later I manually added it to the golden customers list, right? So this is the recipient part, and we can jump over to campaigns here and create a new campaign. We'll have to give this a name, so I'll call it promotion, product update. And the sender would be me. And then we have a preview text here, and this is for previews in the inbox, for example, on iPhones and stuff like that. So we could let's write a summary here or something, which would be good practice. And then we can choose a theme as well. And the theme is there's a default theme that we ship, and you can also extend this and override the default theme. But basically the theme configures stuff like, for example, colors. So if I drag in a button like this, the button color will be green here. And as you can see here, we haven't really been configuring a color for this control. So this is a default color for buttons, but I can override a color like this. And the colors that you see here are also colors from the theme, but it's also possible to pick whatever color you would like for the button, maybe like that. But if you have brand colors or stuff like that you want to use, you can configure these key colors here, so they're easy to pick for editors. So let's say that we want to have a headline. That's always good to have a headline. I can say hello here. And then we want to greet, or maybe I just want to say hi. And we would like to greet the recipient with their first name, right? And then a exclamation mark. And I'm going to make this a heading 1. And then scrolling down, I can actually choose a text color. So I'm going to choose this nice color here and save this. So this will be replaced during rendering with the name of the recipient. In this case, this is a preview, so we don't have a recipient, so the recipient's first name is test. As you saw here in the fields dropdown, there are other fields as well, and we do get the custom fields that we just created, like city and company. So if I were to add more custom fields, we will get them here as well. And it's also possible to create a fallback. So if the city is empty, we can just write something like not available. And this would be written if that merge field is empty. So there is a lot of things that we can do inside of the editor. I'm actually gonna duplicate this row here by clicking this button, and I'm gonna drag in an image. And then I'm going to remove that control. And this image control is cool because I can just go in here and, okay, so I need to upload something. I have some cool images here. What about some pancakes? I'll drag them in and we'll choose them here. And then the editor is rendering the pancakes. So on the row, there's a couple of settings as well. We can choose a background color for the row. So let's say that we wanted to create a cool layout. So I'm clicking on this one, and I would like the row to span the whole email, not just the, oh, this doesn't really look good. I'm sorry. I need to go and create a new row. I need to drag this. So as you can see here, we can actually drag the rows as well. I'm going to move this one into that row instead and jump back to this row and just remove the background color. Yeah, so I think the best thing we can do is to create just yet another row. So we're actually just stacking rows on top of each other here. But this row here, if we go to the settings, I want it to span the whole width and then have this background color. And as you can see here, there's a little padding here, and that comes from the margin. So we can either click on this button to set the margin for top right, bottom left, or we can just say that I want 0 margin for this one. So now the image would span the 100% of the email. It's also possible to use a background if we wanted to. So we can go to the row here and choose a background image. So maybe we want to use this background image. So as you can see here, it's using that image as background for the row now. Or maybe we can choose the pancakes, yeah. This doesn't really look good. I think I'm skipping the background. Okay, so I think you get a feel for how this works. And we can choose the button here to link to either content, and then we'll get the content picker. Or we can go ahead and choose media, external URL. We can even use a merge field here, maybe the read in browser link. So this, in this case, we could create a link to read in the browser. And then there's other settings. We can use inverted color, which is not really good on a white background, but I can show you how that looks if we change the background color to something like that. And go here and then use an inverted button, maybe with some cooler color. Let's use the white color. That would look something like that. Then we have to set the text color of this one to white, maybe. Yeah, so you get a feel for that. And we can also choose where the button should be placed, the alignment, and the size of the button as well. And the alignment here is probably makes sense to have it in the middle, but it's possible to create other column combinations, for example, like this. And then we can drag that button into another column if we want to. Okay. I'm going to drag it back to that row, and I'm going to remove this and save it. Okay, so this is our campaign now. It looks really cool. We can preview it here and look at how it looks in the mobile view and on desktop. And we can also go ahead and send it to mailing lists. So we have the 2 lists that I just created. You can also, if I save and close this and go to members in my installation here, I can create a member group here. I'll just call it members and then save it. I'll create another gold members, right? And then when I jump back to my campaign here and click on send, we get these groups here as well. So it's member groups that we're showing here. Now they are empty, so there's no real value in using them. Let's say that we want to send this to our clients, all our 650 clients. I can choose to schedule this for a specific time. So I can choose that I want to send it some date in the future, or I can send it right away. And I'm going to go ahead and send it now. I'm going to show you the temp folder here. I'll click this, and yeah, here you can see that the emails are sent. And if we go to the campaigns tab again here, you can see that it's sent, and we can go to the report. And here we see that it's sent to 20 recipients. We haven't opened any of the emails yet, so there's none opened and none clicked. We also show a timeline of the clicks and opens the first 24 hours. We can jump to the recipients tab to see all the recipients that got the email, and then we can look at this recipient when the email was sent, and also view tracking. And from here we can also jump to the recipient details view if we want to. So we're using the infinite editing features of Umbraco to improve the experience in the package as well. And here we can filter as well on people who opened, or if there was any delivery issues or stuff like that. Maybe you're wondering why we just sent to 20 when there was 650 recipients. That's because we are in trial mode right now, so we only send to the 21st in the list. Okay, let's open up this email in Outlook. And as you can see here, it doesn't look super nice, but if I download the images, it looks like it's supposed to. And here's the read in browser button as well. If I click that, I get the email rendered inside of the browser. And if we jump back here to the overview, I think we might have to refresh. Yeah, we can see here that this open was tracked. So 5% of the recipients did open the email. And this click is not tracked as a regular click because it's a read in browser click. So that's why we didn't track it. So this is the campaign parts of the package, and they've been out for a while. And one thing that we just introduced and added in the Beta7 release, I want to show you this, is if we jump over to content here, again, I'm going to create a new row. I'm going to drag this row to the top here. And I'm going to drag in a macro. So this is something new and cool. You can use specific macros for the newsletter package. So here's a demo macro, for example. I'm going to save and go to preview. So this is a CS.html file, so a razor view that lives inside of the package that renders this part of the content. So I'm just gonna jump into the folder structure here to show you how this works. So inside of the app plugins folder in your Umbraco installation, we will have the Newsletter Studio folder, of course, because that's the folder that we create. Inside here, there's a themes folder and a default folder, views, and macros. So here is our demo macro that we just saw. So I can actually go in and edit this macro. Gonna save it. So Marcus was here, and then if I refresh this, you can see the text here. So this is a regular razor view that you can use to render dynamic content into the newsletter if you want to. And this control is also available for transactional emails. And transactional emails is emails that we send out from the system. For example, when the user signs up and we want to send a welcome email saying, hello, welcome, thank you for signing up. Or maybe we want to send a forgot password email, or a receipt in a web shop, or a promotion, or whatever. So it's in some way triggered by the system, and it's sent to, most of the time, to one, maybe some CC or BCC, but it's most of the time one recipient for this kind of emails. So let's play with this a little bit. I'm gonna open up Visual Studio here, and this is the solution that we are working in right now. So I'm gonna go to the models folder, and as you can see here, we have a forgot password POCO model, and this model is a demo. It's used to send a forgot password email when someone forgot their password, right? We've added a attribute called transactional email to this one, and each field that we want to use in the editor has a attribute as well. So this is our email model. We're not inheriting from everything special. We could also have other complex properties here if we wanted to, like a list of strings or whatever. And as long as we don't have the merge field value, Newsletter Studio doesn't really care. But we do pass this model into the macros. So we can read and use these models inside of the CS.html macros. Okay, so I've shown you this, and I've just put it in here in the models folder. You can put it wherever you want, because we will scan the assembly for transactional email attributes. So if I create a new email here, forgot password, there's some settings for this email. We can set up recipients here. So if we want to set a set list of recipients, we could do that here by just typing in the emails. We can, of course, have multiple emails if we want to. But of course, we can override this when we're sending the email. So we can send these transactional emails from code or from other parts of the system, for example, from Umbraco forms. I'm going to show you that in a bit. We also have some settings. So we have the keep a log of sent emails. So if we unclick this one, we will not log the emails, and you wouldn't get any statistics. We can disable the tracking as well. And there's a setting called send individual emails. And this is kind of interesting because if we have multiple recipients, for example, if we're putting a CC here, or if we have two recipients for the email, to be able to track them individually, we will have to send individual emails. So if we're using the tracking, it's a good practice to also send individual emails. So most of the time you would want this setting activated. And then if we activate the log again, we can say for how long time we want to store the log items. Never is the default, so we will never remove anything. You can also choose here if you want to store the actual content of the email and for how long time. So maybe for debugging purposes, you could save it for 3 or 7 days or something like that. But I'm just going to keep everything on the default here. And I'll remove this one. Then we go in here and design the email. So I need a sender, someone who did send this. So maybe info at... So this is the sender. The subject, forgot password. Maybe we could say create your new password, right? We can choose a theme here. The default theme is the only thing that we can choose from, so we better go with that. And then a data model. So this is interesting here. Right now we have no data model, but as you can see here, there's a forgot password model that we can choose. And this is the model from this POCO. So when I choose this model and go to the next step and click on something that's a text editor, we will actually get these fields here in the dropdown. So this is really convenient. I've spent a lot of time looking for these kind of merge fields in text editors, you know, and jumping back and forth between Visual Studio to know which fields are available. Now it's really simple. We just show all the fields here for the editor to use, right? So let's try and make something cool out of this. So we'll say, hi, username, someone requested a new password. And I'm gonna remove this and save, and then I'm gonna go here and I'll add a button, reset password. Click here to reset password, right? And then I'll choose a field and use the password URL. And we can also go here and grab a text box and drop it here. Go to this URL, and then I'll insert that one here as well. And down here we can choose the size to be a little bit smaller, maybe like that, and I'll save it. Okay, let's preview. As you can see right now, we're not replacing anything of this because we don't have a model in the preview context. But I think it looks good. I'm going to close it. And I'm going to jump in here just to make sure that we don't have duplicates of that one. I think that's it. I'm gonna show you how to send from code, and it's easier when there's just one template. Okay, I'm gonna go to Visual Studio again. I'm gonna go to the newsletter controller. Okay, we have a render form here, and we have a handle form. Okay, let's see where we can insert our code. I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna render it first here and see what happens. Is this the form? No, it's not. Okay, might be a macro that we need to insert. Sign up with forms. It's not that. I'm sorry. Okay, let's see. Ah, okay, now I remember. It's actually a, we need to render it here. Let's put it on the home page. What? Oh, okay. Let's go to the start page and see if this works. I really hope it does. Yeah, here is the super nice form that we just created. So what I'm going to try to do is in the handle form here, we're actually already appending a recipient, but I'm going to comment that out. And I'm going to show you how to send a transactional email. So I'm going to say email model, new forgot password model, right? And then email model dot username is equal to Mackan, that's my nickname, and email model dot password reset link, reset password, and then token, right? Super nice. And then I'm going to create a request. So equal to new send transactional email request. And we can actually pass in a model here. So I'm passing in this model. And when I do that, we're going to look for transactional templates that matches that model. And if we find, we will use the first one that we find. So it would be a good practice to put a picker or something on one of your nodes or on a macro to really be able to choose which email to send. But in this case, there's going to be some magic going on. So I'm actually going to jump to our website and look at the help section. And here there should be a section somewhere. Yeah, front-end API. Of course, I haven't added the documentation yet. Okay. So I'm going to say I'm going to just try and see what happens. I think I'm forgetting something. Give me a sec. Okay. I didn't really forget something. I think we should be able to just use this code to send. I'm going to build a project, as you can see here, and then jump here. And I'm going to go to the email again here, and I'm going to make sure, yeah, we have a recipient, we have a sender, so it should be fine. Let me reload this page. So fingers crossed. Hope that this works. Testing, hello world, test at food. Okay, let's hope that it's working. So it says thank you. Did we get an email? Yeah. Here's the email. So this is the transactional email sent by the code that we just written. And as you can see here, this didn't work because the link is relative here, but that can be fixed. The best thing would be to create a link out of this. Anyway, here is a button where we can click to come to the web page, and of course we don't have the reset password page implemented, but if we go back to the back office now and look at the forgot password, we can actually see here that this was sent to marcus@enkelmedia.se, and we can also view the content here. So it looks all the same, and we will revert the links so there's no tracking here. So the links will look exactly like they did when the email was sent. We can, from here, we can go to the template. So go back to this thing if we wanted to edit the email or something like this. So I'm going to open it up again and click on this link, and then I'll jump in here again. And let's see here. Yeah, so now the tracking is working as well. So there's a little gap in the tracking. We wait for 30 seconds before we start to track things, because there's a lot of spam checkers that will open emails and click on links, and we don't want them to interfere with the real user. If we look at this now, we can see that the link was clicked, and we're also tracking here that the email was open. So all of this is thanks to the fact that we have the tracking enabled here. So this is really cool. The API to send the transactional emails, the request here, is a fluent API, so we can actually go ahead and add recipients if we want to add programmatically from here. We can add additional merge fields, and we can also set explicitly which transactional email to use, and also if we want to send this async or not. So if the default setting for this is true, which means that we will send it in a different thread, so that the page load will be faster. But if you wanted errors to be thrown and stuff like that, you can go with async false, and we will keep do the work in the same thread, in the UI thread. So this will impact the load time. Not a huge deal, maybe a couple of 100 milliseconds. but depending on how many recipients and if you're sending to individual people, might be good to keep the default and have it set to true. Anyway, I just wanted to jump up here. There's a work in progress project here, an integration with Umbraco forms. So this is really cool. We can actually go in here. If we go to forms and have a look at, let's just create a new form. I create an empty form. I'll call it product sign up. And this is our product newsletter sign up. So I'm gonna save it, and then I'll add a field for a name and a field for email, and then I'll add a field, a long answer. Tell us about your company, right? And I'll save it. And then here I can go and configure workflow. I'm going to do that later. First, I'm going to jump over to emails, and in here I'll create a new email. I'll call it Umbraco forms confirmation. Product sign up confirmation, and I'll design the email, and the sender will be me. And down here, I need to save this first. I need to go to administration and then Marcus, and I need to activate the Umbraco forms Umbraco forms merge field provider. And when I've done that, I should be able to jump back here, go to design. And now we see all the Umbraco forms, all the forms created in Umbraco forms, and our product sign up form is there. So when I go to the next view here to edit this, new product sign up. A new sign up from the website, name, email, info. And then I can just grab the fields from the form here. I'll save it, and let's go ahead and format this a little nicer, something like that. Okay, cool. I'll close it, and I'll go here and set a recipient to be me. And then I'll jump back to the form, product sign up, and configure workflow. And I'll remove the default workflow here, and I'll add a new one. And this workflow is going to be the send transactional email. Right, and I can choose a email here, and I'm going to go Marcus demo, and then the Umbraco forms sign up. So this is still a little bit work in progress, but I hope that you'll get a feel for how this could work. So now the next step is to go here and on the About Us page, for example, I'll insert a macro with the form that we just created, the product sign up form. I'll save it, and let's see if it renders. It seems to render. Not sure if this will work. I'm going to try. Foo bar test test.sc hello world. Okay, let's see. But it did actually send an email here. See, if I open up this one, we get the information from the form inside of our email, a transactional email. So this is just an example of one integration that we can do. It's possible to integrate to whatever we want. So it could be integrated with a web shop or with whatever things that you would like to send from your system. You can use the API to send. And it's if we look at the code here, for example, on the send transactional workflow. So these are going to be open source. So you can see here that's a lot of comments and stuff, but it's actually quite straightforward. This is the code that is sending the email. So it's not a lot of code. It's quite easy. There's also the merge field provider here that is just creating a list of properties based on the properties in the form. So it's not super complicated, and like I said, this is going to be open source. So all these integrations is going to be available to view for you. So another thing that I wanted to touch upon is the thing that we talked about in the beginning regarding themes. So I'm actually going to go into Visual Studio here. So let's say that we want to create a new theme. The way this works is that I'll create a new folder inside of App Plugins. So let's call this folder Marcus, just for demo purposes. So this is my extension folder, and inside this folder, I'll create another folder called Newsletter Studio. So inside this folder is where we are going to place all the extensions for this website. So I'll create a new folder here called Themes. And then inside of that one, I'll create a called Enkel Media. That's my company. And here inside this, I need to create a theme.json file. And this is documented on the website. It's going to be documented, of course, how to send transactional emails as well, but I recorded the video before I managed to publish that. Okay, so the only thing that we actually need inside of a theme is so the theme file here is basically just a JSON file, a flat JSON file with properties. So this is the only thing that we need to create our first theme. If I jump back here into the browser and go to administration, my theme is showing up here, so I can go ahead and activate that. But at the moment, my theme is not really doing anything smart, because the only thing it does is overriding the name of the default theme. If I go here and I'll jump into this one, settings, design, I should have been able to, but I wasn't. Why can't I change the theme? Is something wrong? Let me look at it again and see if it works now. Nope. Okay, so something is wrong. Something is terribly wrong here. Okay, need to fix that before the release. Let's see if we can do the same thing with the campaign. That should work, or it did work. Okay, I actually activated the theme for campaigns here, campaigns, but I was looking at transactional emails, so hopefully it's gonna be better now. Yeah, so here's a Marcus theme, and by choosing that theme, nothing really changes, which is fine, but we can go ahead here and jump back to Visual Studio, and I'll go into the Newsletter Studio folder and open up the themes.json file from Newsletter Studio. And here is all the settings that we can override in our themes folder. So there's, for example, a background color. That will be the background color of the email. So I can go here and say that in our version we want to have a black background color, right? And then we can go ahead here and override the selectable colors. So that's the colors in the picker that I showed you. So let's go with some fancy colors. Visual Studio doesn't really like that. Okay, Let's say that this is our colors. Now when I go back to the transactional email, as you can see here, things have started to change. So the background color is black. And when I go, let's insert a button. So the default color for the button is still green, but the color picker here has different colors now. So let's say that, let's save it. And let's say that we want to change the default button color as well. We can go back here. We can look at the Newsletter Studio, the default template, to get a feel for things that we can override. So somewhere here we have the button background color, right? Let's insert that here and then pick this color as the default button color, and I'll reload. And now you can see that the color of the button is changed. So basically the settings inside of the email, if we choose the transparent or the no settings option, it will fall back to the theme. And if the theme that we're using, in this case, the Marcus theme, if this theme doesn't have a setting, we will use the setting from the default theme, right? But of course, if I set an explicit color here, the changes in the theme wouldn't matter. So this is quite powerful, and we can also, of course, choose here default fonts, sizes for the fonts, text color for links. Everything is in here, so just have a look and play around. But as you can understand, it's quite simple to use brand colors in the picker here, and maybe the background color for the email could be a little bit better. We could choose something like this. But of course, everything from the theme can be overridden inside of the editor. So it's like I said, if there's no setting in the email, we will look at the theme, and if there's no setting in the theme, we will look at the default theme. So here we can also choose fonts. We have web standard fonts, and then we have some web fonts from, for example, from Google. These are extendable as well, but let's go with Comic Sans. So this will be the button color, and then for text we can choose what font to use for the text, and we can set the default color here as well. So this is on the email level here. If I save this, and then if I click on this one, we can actually go here and say that, oh well, this one I want it to be Arial and maybe black. So in this case, it's from the control, and if there's no setting on the control, we'll fall back to the email settings. If there's no setting on the email, we'll go to the theme, and if there's no setting on the theme, we will use the default theme. So I think that's very much information, and almost 50 minutes of video. Haven't really shown the settings for the workspace. So there's administration, and then there's settings. So the idea is that some editors might have access to settings, and here we can set a default sender. And this default sender will be used for all emails that we create, which is good. We can also add tracking. So if we want to put UTM tags on the links, we can just activate that here, and we will append the UTM tags to any link to the website. Same thing goes for transactional emails as well. Yeah, so there's a couple of settings inside here. The last thing that I haven't really touched upon is actually different user access. So I can just create a new user. And then I'll say that this is an editor. And I'll create the user. I'll copy password. I'm gonna save it. What? Okay. Good. Not now. I need to go to. I need to give editors access to the email section. And save. Let's open up a new window. Try to see if this works. It did work. Okay. One thing that I can do just to show you is here, if I jump back to the users and go to this one, I'll change the language to Swedish. And then I'll go here. So now the language is in Swedish, and as you can see here, things are translated. Obviously not all of them, but most of them should be. Okay, so what I can do here is to jump back to this browser here. I'm logged in as a administrator, and I'll go into to the Company Inc. Workspace here, and I'll say that I only want administrators. Oh, sorry, that's a bad idea. Okay, I'll go with sensitive data. People in the sensitive data group, they have access to this one, but no other. So basically, when there is no set permission settings, everyone will see the workspace. But after updating the setting, hopefully, okay, not sure what happened. Something bad happened. Why not? Okay, let's remove the permissions. Let's see if this changes anything. That's crazy. What? Okay. Let's try something else then. Okay, so there's obviously something wrong. I don't know exactly what. I need to look into that. But the idea, okay. It really bothers me. Okay, so there's something with the dashboard that's not working. Okay, maybe if we actually continue to work here, might work better if we set up permissions for all of them. There's obviously some kind of bug, but it might work better if we do it like this. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so probably because I just did some parts of the settings. That's why this issue happened. So okay, now I'm logged in as this new user, Marcus, and I made sure that editors only have access to the Marcus demo workspace. And as you can see here, we can only see one workspace. We don't even see the concepts of workspaces in here because I only have access to one workspace. We can also limit the access. So if I go back in here and click on this one, maybe we don't want editors to change the settings, so I can unclick that. And then when I go back here, we don't see the settings section. Or maybe we're not using transactional emails and we don't want to disturb our editors with icons in the tree. We can just remove the access, and this will remove this from the editor. And the other way around, of course, if we're only using transactionals and not campaigns, we can, of course, hide the campaigns and only show transactional emails here. We can also set up permissions to if a person is allowed to send a campaign. So I can actually go ahead and show how that works. So with this setting, okay, that did not work. I guess we have to press the button, but there's permissions for that as well. So it's quite granular. You can also put exceptions on specific users. For example, we can say that this person should have access to everything, but other editors shouldn't. And as you can see now, we get the settings here. So for example, Marcus, the editor, might be a super editor in some way and can change the settings, but other editors can't. So this is how this works. Well, permissions is complicated, and hopefully it works. It's just me that's a little bit tired. Okay, I've shown you a brief overview now, or not a brief, like an hour overview, and I hope that you found something here that you think is interesting, and feel free to reach out to me. Go to the website newsletterstudio.org, and which didn't load right now, but just here it is, and contact me, ask questions, send emails, and thanks for watching.